In this video, I want to show you how to use the Eyedropper tool in Google Slides to help you figure out how to isolate certain colors to help you better mix them. I'll be using this video in one of my beginning art classes, so I'm going to give them some instructions on how to make a copy of this Google slide first, because they may not need all of the pictures that are in here. They're just going to be using one picture. So first go to File, and then go to Make a Copy and copy the entire presentation. Once you do that, you'll have the ability to edit it. So now go into the copy that you've made, and if you want to delete all of the extra pictures, you can do that because you don't need them, especially if your picture isn't at the top like mine is. You may want to delete all the pictures so that you don't have to keep scrolling past them. To delete a bunch of pictures at one time, just click the slide at the top and then scroll down to the last slide that you want to delete. Hold Shift and click that one, and that will highlight all of them, and then you can just hit delete. So now I'm left with just this slide. At some point it will be helpful to know how to zoom in on your picture. With my particular laptop, if I hit Control and the plus sign in Google Slides, it allows me to zoom in. If that doesn't work for you, you may want to just Google the title of your computer and then how to zoom in and zoom out in Google Slides. And you should be able to find it. To zoom out, you would hit Control minus. When I started painting like this, I try to block in basic color. So I look around at the image and I figure out what the main colors are being used first, and I mix those up first. And I will just block in the basic hue for each of those areas. I don't include shadows or highlights yet. I'm just putting in flat color. And then as I layer it later, that's when I'll add highlights and shadows. So the area of the negative space around here is all kind of a gray tone. And so even though it's different from the top and the bottom, those are different values. At the first stage, when I first paint it, I'm going to paint it all the same color. So I'm going to start by identifying what that is and using the eyedropper tool. So first I get a line. So I click on the line and I add that, and that gives me something to point to. And I make the line darker so that I can see it well. And then I go in and I click on shapes. And it doesn't matter what shape you use, but I'll just use a circle. So I create a circle and I place that there. And now I want to make that circle color match the color that the line is pointing to. In order to do that, I make sure that the circle is selected. So I click on the circle. And then I go up, I'm going to zoom in first so that I can get that color easier. And then go up to the color tool and click on Eyedropper. I'm going to find the area that's right next to that line. So sometimes I like to find the line and then follow that to what it's pointing to. And then I'll click on the color right next to the line. And once I do that, it will place that color in the circle. So now I know exactly what that color is. Another cool thing is that if you want to see what color family it is, select the shape, click on the color tool again, and then click on the plus button. And now you can see that's kind of like a yellowish green gray. So that's going to make it easier for me to mix that color later. So I know I'll be using yellow and blue because I'm only using the primary colors to make a light green, yellow green. And then I might use a little bit of white and a baby bit of black to add some gray to it. So now I'm going to zoom out and decide what's another color that I'm going to need a lot of. And that brown and the cupcake, that's something that I'm going to want to mix at the beginning. I'll use a lot of that color. So I can copy. So I'm going to click on the line and I'm going to click Control C to copy it. You can even select the line and the shape and copy that. And so I'm going to move that up and point to an area of the cupcake that's brown that I want to select. I'm going to move the circle out so that I can make the line a little bit longer. And make it point exactly where I want it to be. I'll select the circle again, go into the color tool, and then click right next to that line. I find the line first, follow it, and then click right in there. And it's going to put that brown right there in that shape. And this is more of like a red-orange hue. So if you are one of my students, I would like to see you color select a minimum of 3 before you get started. And then when you mix your paint, just start with one of them. So I'll probably start with that lighter gray, the very first color I selected. I'll mix that up and I'll paint that everywhere that I think it should go. But now that I'm looking at it and I see that this bag and the background are kind of both that color, I'm going to have to be able to determine where the bag starts and stops against the background. So I think I'm going to go in and try to find the darker shade of that color that appears in the bag. So I'm going to color select that area. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back and copy the line and the shape again. So I'm going to select both of them, hit Control C, and then hit Control V. I copied it, I've moved it over here, and you can use this little blue circle tool to rotate it. And then I'm going to move it and point to an area that's just a little more of a shadowed area of that same color, just so that I can paint enough of the bag that it doesn't get lost into the background. So I'm going to move the circle out here a little bit, make this line a little bit longer. Use the eyedropper tool again and select that space. And so you can see it's just a little bit of a shade darker. It's still probably in that yellow-green family, but if you want to check, you can click on it. Click on the color button, click on the plus sign, and yep, it's still in that yellow-green family. I also selected this red. I just wanted to see, because if I were to paint that red, if I hadn't have color selected that with the eyedropper tool, I might have used straight red out of the tube, but it's a little bit darker than I thought it was now that I've isolated it. It has a little bit of black mixed in with that red, so it's a shade of red. So that's another reason why we do this. It helps us see the colors a little bit better. Sometimes when we see one color next to other colors, it's almost like an optical illusion, and our brain thinks it's more red or more white or more something else. And using this eyedropper tool will tell us exactly what that actual color is. So if you're one of my students, at this point, you could take a screenshot of this and submit it just to show me that you know how to do this. And then as you're working through your painting, you can color select as much or as little as you want. And hopefully the eyedropper tool will make everything easier.